Look, I'm about to discuss something that might make people uncomfortable, but it's a conversation worth having. You know what I keep seeing everywhere? Men in their 40s, average men, not millionaires, not models, suddenly getting messages from women who wouldn't have given them the time of day 15 years ago. Women who spent their entire 20s and 30s swiping left on anyone under 6 feet, anyone making less than 6 figures, anyone without the complete package. Now suddenly, these same women are messaging first, showing interest, being flexible about requirements. And these guys are confused. They're thinking, did I finally make it? Did I finally become attractive? Am I suddenly the man women want? And before you comment, let me ask you something. When did you become more attractive? Was it at 42 when you had less hair than you did at 25? Was it when your metabolism slowed down? Was it when you got those stress lines from a decade of corporate work? Think about it. I'll give you a moment. The answer is you didn't. You didn't suddenly become more attractive. Something else changed. The market changed. And once you understand what actually happened, you'll never look at this sudden attention the same way again. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine there's a marketplace. At one end you have buyers. At the other end you have sellers. For years the buyers had all the power. They could be incredibly selective. They could demand premium quality for average prices. They could filter out 95% of what was available and still have options. Then something shifts. Supply decreases. Demand stays the same. Suddenly those buyers who are so selective, they're competing with each other for what's left. And the sellers they rejected years ago, those sellers aren't as available anymore. Some found other buyers. Some decided they're fine without buyers. That's what's happening in the dating market for women over 40. And that's why average men are suddenly getting attention they never got before. Here's how the market worked when she was 25. Let's call her Jessica. She's working entry-level marketing, making maybe $40,000 a year, lives with roommates, drives a Honda Civic that's seen better days. But on dating apps, she's matching with doctors, lawyers, finance guys, men making 6 figures, men who own property, men who are 6'2" with abs and interesting hobbies. She goes on dates with successful 35-year-old men who take her to expensive restaurants, pay for everything, compete for her attention. And this creates something important, an illusion. She can match with high-value men. She can get dates with them. She interprets this as, this is my tier. These are the men I deserve. What she doesn't understand, what most women at 25 don't understand, is that attention doesn't equal commitment. These successful men in their 30s and 40s, they're dating her casually. They're not committing. They're enjoying the company of a young, attractive woman with no baggage, no ex-husband, no kids, no emotional walls built from 20 years of dating disasters. But she doesn't see this distinction. She sees matches, she sees dates, she sees attention from high-value men, and she thinks, okay, this is what I can get. So when an average 27-year-old guy shows interest, makes $55,000, drives a normal car, lives in a decent apartment, would actually commit to her, she swipes left. Not tall enough, not successful enough, not exciting enough. She has hundreds of matches. She can afford to be selective. The power is entirely in her hands. Here's how the filtering worked, and this is based on actual data from dating platforms. Height, minimum 6 feet. That immediately eliminates 85% of men. Income must make at least $75,000 to $100,000. By the time she's done filtering, she's left with maybe 2 to 3% of men on the platform. And here's the thing, those 2 to 3% of men, they know they're in the top tier. They know they have options. So why would they commit to her specifically when they can date beautiful women in their 20s indefinitely? But the math doesn't register yet. She's 25. She has time. Relationships are something she'll get serious about later. Right now, she's focusing on her career, her friends, her experiences, living her best life. She'll settle down eventually, when she's ready, when she finds someone who meets all her criteria. You see what I'm getting at? Fast forward to 32. Jessica's doing better professionally, maybe making $65,000 now. But the dating market, it's shifted in ways she didn't anticipate. Those successful men in their late 30s and 40s who were taking her out at 25, they're now dating women in their mid-20s. Jessica's no longer the youngest option in their rotation. She's competing with women 5 to 7 years younger who have exactly what she had at 25. Youth, optimism, no baggage. The matches slow down. The quality of matches decreases. The men messaging her aren't quite the caliber she got used to, but her standards haven't adjusted, because her self-perception hasn't adjusted. She still thinks she deserves what she was getting at 25, and she starts hearing things. Where are all the good men? Why is everyone already in a relationship? Men are intimidated by successful women. Men can't handle strong women. These are coping mechanisms, explanations that protect her ego from the real truth. The market has shifted, and she hasn't adjusted her expectations to match her current market value. At 32, she still has options, but they're not the options she wants. The men showing genuine interest, the average guys making $60,000 to $80,000, the solid guys who would commit, she still filters them out, because she remembers the attention she got at 25, and she believes that's her baseline. Here's where everything changes. Somewhere between 36 and 40, something clicks. The biological timeline she could ignore in her 20s becomes impossible to deny. If she wants children, the window is closing, fast. Medical facts don't care about her career trajectory. Fertility drops dramatically after 35, plummets after 40. This isn't opinion, this is biology. If she doesn't want children, she's facing a different problem. The men she's been filtering for, they're increasingly partnered. The successful, attractive men in their 40s, many are married or in serious relationships. The ones who aren't, they either have significant issues, are dating women 10 to 15 years younger, or have been through divorce and are extremely cautious. The dating pool hasn't just shrunk, it's evaporated, and suddenly, those average men she filtered out at 25 and 30 are looking a lot more appealing. Here's what actually happened, and I'm going to explain this through basic market economics. In any market, value is determined by supply and demand. In the dating market, different ages have different dynamics. Women at 25, high supply of interested men, can be extremely selective. High perceived market value, power in the relationship dynamic. Women at 40, dramatically reduced supply of interested men in their age range, competing with younger women for limited high-value men, facing biological timeline pressure. Power has shifted entirely. Men at 25, lower perceived value because they're less established, competing with older, more successful men. Less power in the dating dynamic. Men at 40, if they've built success, their market value has increased. Dating pool includes women from 25 to 45. More options than they had at 25, significantly more power. This is the correction. The power that favored her at 25 now favors you at 40, and the women who filtered you out years ago are realizing you have options too. Let me tell you about a guy I know. Call him Mike. He's 43, makes decent money, nothing spectacular. Good guy, average looking, stable job. In his 20s, he got almost no attention from women. He'd message women on dating apps, maybe get a response 1 out of 20 times. Dates were rare, relationships were rarer. Now at 43, he's getting messages from women first. Women with master's degrees, women with good careers, women who are attractive, accomplished, the whole package. And Mike's confused. He's thinking, what changed? Did I suddenly become attractive? I told him, Mike, nothing about you changed. Look at yourself at 25 versus 43. You're less attractive now by conventional standards. Less hair, more weight, more stress. But the women messaging you, their options changed. The men they actually wanted at 25 aren't available at 40. So now you look good, not because you improved, because their alternatives disappeared. Here's what to watch for. She's in a hurry, pushing for commitment quickly, talking about moving in after a few months, bringing up marriage or kids within weeks. This isn't about you specifically, this is about her timeline. She's operating under deadline pressure. She still talks about her type. I usually date taller men. I'm normally attracted to more adventurous guys. I typically go for someone more successful. She's telling you directly. You don't fit her preference pattern, but she's willing to make an exception because she has to. She settles visibly. You can see her disappointment. When your apartment isn't as nice as she hoped, when your car is practical instead of impressive, when your vacation plans are modest, she's constantly recalibrating her expectations downward. She compares constantly, references ex-boyfriends who are more successful, better looking, more exciting, talks about the life she imagined versus the life you can provide. She's mourning the loss of what she thought she deserved. I knew a woman, let's call her Sarah. For years she filtered men relentlessly. Not tall enough, not wealthy enough, not accomplished enough. She literally had a spreadsheet. Height minimum, salary minimum, travel experience minimum, education level minimum, vehicle value minimum. She was working an entry-level job herself at the time. Fast forward to 38. Suddenly those must-haves became nice-to-haves, then optional. She started dating a guy who wouldn't have made her first cut at 28. Good guy, stable, average in every way. But here's what I observed. She resented him. She never said it directly, but you could see it. Every time they went to dinner at a chain restaurant instead of somewhere upscale. Every time he drove his practical sedan instead of something impressive. Every time she looked at friends who married earlier and had nicer lives, she settled, and she resented settling, even though the settling was entirely her own doing. Here's something men don't anticipate. When women settle, they resent it. Even if they don't consciously acknowledge it, the resentment builds. She looks at her friend who married at 28, married an average guy. At the time, he was just average, but they grew together, built together. Now at 40, that couple has a nice home, established life, teenage kids, deep bond. That could have been her, with any number of average men who showed interest in her 20s. Or she looks at successful men her age dating women in their late 20s, and she knows if those men are single and high value, they're not dating women their own age. They have no reason to. This creates a psychological trap. She knows she waited too long. She knows she filtered too harshly. She knows she bet on being able to attract top-tier men indefinitely, and she lost that bet. But she can't admit this, because admitting it destroys her self-image. So the resentment gets directed at you. You become the symbol of her settling. Every compromise she makes feels like evidence of her failure. This shows up in interesting ways. Picking fights over small things, comparing your relationship to others constantly, never quite being satisfied with what you provide, maintaining a grass is greener mindset, keeping an eye on other options just in case. If you're dating a divorced woman over 40, there's another layer. That ex-husband remains in her life, and it affects everything. She compares everything to her marriage. Your relationship isn't evaluated on its own merits. It's constantly measured against what she had before, and memory is selective. That marriage failed for serious reasons, but over time she'll romanticize the good parts while you're living through the daily reality. Financial entanglements, child support, alimony, shared property. Her financial situation is complicated, and it directly affects you if things get serious. Her ex's decisions impact her, which impacts you. The kids factor. If she has children, you're not just dating her. You're entering a complex system with an ex-husband who has permanent influence over her schedule, her stress, her priorities, her finances. You will always be secondary to the kids, and the ex has permanent access through those kids. The emotional damage. Divorce isn't clean. She carries trauma, trust issues, walls built from years of conflict. You inherit all of this. Every argument you have, she's partly arguing with you and partly arguing with patterns from her marriage. Let's look at actual numbers, because this isn't opinion, it's mathematical reality. You at 40 can date women from roughly 25 to 45, dating pool of 20 years worth of women. If you're financially successful and reasonably attractive, you're in demand. Women in their 20s and early 30s are often receptive to older men with resources and stability. Her at 40. Most successful men her age are either taken or dating younger men. Guys in their 30s usually doesn't work long term. Those men are targeting women in their 20s and early 30s. Dating older men, 50s and up, means dealing with their baggage, health issues, retirement complications. The pool of acceptable available men may be 5 to 10% of what it was at 25. This is why women over 40 finally notice average men. Not because these men became more attractive, because the alternatives disappeared. The fertility reality, this makes people uncomfortable. But you can't discuss dating over 40 honestly without addressing it. Fertility isn't politically correct, but it's biologically real. A woman at 25 has approximately a 25% chance of pregnancy per cycle. At 40, that drops to about 5%. By 45, less than 1%. These aren't opinions, these are medical statistics. If a 40-year-old woman wants biological children, she's facing dramatically reduced fertility, increased risk of complications, higher miscarriage rates, increased genetic risks, expensive fertility treatments with low success rates. A very narrow window. This creates desperation. That average man who would have been invisible at 25, he suddenly becomes interesting at 40, because he's willing to have kids with her. Her standards drop. Not because the man became more appealing, because her biological timeline eliminated her ability to be selective. For men, fertility doesn't decline nearly as dramatically. A 40-year-old man can still father healthy children. A 50-year-old man can still father healthy children. This asymmetry creates a massive shift in market power. If you're an average man in your 40s getting attention from women who wouldn't have looked at you 15 years ago, here's what you need to know. You are not her dream. You are her reality. There's a difference. She's not choosing you because you swept her off her feet. She's choosing you because her actual preferences are unavailable, and you're the best she can do with her current options. This doesn't mean she can't develop genuine feelings. People can grow to love what they initially settled for, but you need to enter this with eyes open about what you actually represent in her life trajectory. Her urgency isn't flattering. If she's pushing for commitment fast, if she's talking about serious steps early, this isn't because you're so amazing she can't risk losing you. This is because her timeline is desperate, and you happen to be available and acceptable. The power dynamic has shifted. For the first time, you might actually have options. Women your age are interested. Younger women might be interested if you're established. This is unfamiliar territory for men who spent their 20s and 30s being filtered out. Don't let this sudden attention cloud your judgment. Settling works both ways. Just because she's settling for you doesn't mean you have to settle for her. You can have standards. You can filter based on character, compatibility, genuine attraction, shared values. You don't have to accept interest just because it's offered. Here's what men in their 40s increasingly realize. Dating women significantly younger might actually be easier. A 40-year-old man dating a 28-year-old woman, completely different dynamic. She doesn't have the baggage. No ex-husband, no kids usually. No emotional walls built from years of disasters. You're getting someone less cynical, less jaded, more optimistic. She respects male success. Younger women often appreciate a man who's established, who has his life together, who can provide stability. For her, your average success at 40 is impressive. For women your age, it's just meeting minimum standards. No biological panic. A 28-year-old might want kids eventually, but she's not operating under the same deadline pressure. The relationship can develop naturally, without the desperate urgency of someone whose window is slamming shut. You're the higher value. In a relationship with a woman in her late 20s, you're the one with more options, more experience, more resources. The power dynamic favors you. Compare this to dating women your age, where she's constantly evaluating whether she's settled too much. This is why successful men in their 40s and 50s often date younger. It's not just about physical attraction. It's about the entire dynamic being healthier when you're the higher value partner. For women reading this, the time to secure a high-quality man is in your 20s and early 30s. Not because you're shallow, but because that's when you have the most options and the most leverage. The focus on yourself, relationships can wait advice. It has destroyed countless chances at the relationships women actually wanted. If you're serious about marriage and family, you can't pursue that casually in your mid to late 30s and expect the same results you could have gotten at 25. The market doesn't work that way. Biology doesn't work that way. For men in their 40s, don't confuse sudden attention with genuine desire. Understand what you represent. You're not suddenly more attractive. You're suddenly more available relative to their shrinking options. Be strategic. If a woman over 40 is interested, ask yourself, would she have been interested 15 years ago? Is her interest based on who I am or what I represent? Can I see evidence of genuine attraction or just pragmatic selection? Is she rushing this because of me or because of her timeline? Here's the truth that makes everyone uncomfortable. Dating markets operate on supply, demand, and value, just like any other market. And in the dating market, different traits have different values at different ages. Youth and fertility have market value. Whether we want to acknowledge it or not, men are biologically programmed to find these traits attractive because they indicate reproductive viability. This isn't cultural, it's evolutionary. Resources, stability, and status have market value. Women are biologically programmed to value these traits because they indicate ability to provide and protect. This also isn't cultural, it's evolutionary. These preferences don't disappear because we live in modern times. The programming is deep, ancient, powerful. What changes is the relative bargaining power at different life stages. Women have more power in their 20s because youth and fertility are at peak value. Men gain power in their 40s if they've built resources and stability, because these traits increase with age while female fertility decreases. This isn't fair. It isn't equal. It just is. If you're a man in your 40s, you have choices you didn't have at 25. Option 1. Date women your age. Understand what you're getting. More baggage, less fertility, potentially settling for you. Urgent timeline, comparison to past relationships. This can work, but enter it with eyes open. Option 2. Date younger women. If you're established and attractive enough, women in their late 20s and early 30s might be interested. You're offering stability they value. They're offering youth and fewer complications. The power dynamic favors you. Option 3. Stay single. Enjoy your freedom, your resources, your peace. You don't owe anyone a relationship. If the options don't excite you, don't settle just because women are finally showing interest. What matters is that you choose consciously, understanding the actual dynamics, not operating under the illusion that this sudden attention means you finally became the man women always wanted. Women over 40 finally notice average men because the market corrected. The power they had at 25 evaporated by 40, and average men suddenly became the best available option in a dramatically reduced pool. This isn't about hating women. This isn't about revenge. This is about understanding market dynamics, so you can make informed decisions about relationships, commitment, and what you actually want. The women who filtered you out at 25, they're not suddenly attracted to who you've become. They're accepting what they can get with the options they have left. There's a profound difference between being chosen because someone desires you and being chosen because someone's alternatives disappeared. You can build a genuine relationship with someone who initially viewed you as a compromise. People do grow to love what they settled for, but you should enter that dynamic understanding what it actually is, not romanticizing it into something it's not. The market shifted. You now have power you didn't have before. Use it wisely. Don't waste your newfound options on someone who's simply exhausted their preferences, who's trying to lock down the best remaining option before time runs out completely. You deserve to be someone's genuine choice, not their last resort. And at 40, for the first time in your life, you might actually have the leverage to demand that. The reality is simple. Market dynamics don't care about what's fair or what we wish were true. They operate on supply, demand, and value. Understanding these dynamics isn't about being cynical, it's about being informed. Because once you see how the market actually works, you can't unsee it. And that knowledge changes everything about how you approach dating, relationships, and what you're willing to accept from people who finally notice you after ignoring you for decades.